Good day, gentle viewers. In today's news, Netflix's One Piece gets a trailer, Persona 3 Reload gets an English dub, and a look at the spring 2023 anime seasonal rankings. So without any further ado, I am Tristan Gallant and welcome to Glass Reflection. Let's jam. Alright, so Netflix has finally released a new trailer in promotion for their live-action adaptation of One Piece. As I am sitting here recording this video, I have watched the trailer. But prior to doing that, I wrote a bit of a blurb on my mindset going into watching it for the sake of a comparison and also just to give a general understanding of where my mind was at going into this trailer. Because Netflix does not have a great track record here, right? There are numerous examples of Netflix not doing a live-action adaptation of an anime or manga property justice. And by many examples, I mean just literally all of them. While I cannot prove anything, I have constantly been given this feeling that a number of executives attached to these projects don't really care about the material, or if they do, they only care about what they can get from it. While some creatives attached to shows have expressed both a knowledge and a desire to be faithful to the original material, the end result usually shows that they can only really be faithful while also trying to do their completely own separate thing, developing into an adaptation that, barring the characters' names and a couple of select scenes from the original material, could easily be considered something unrelated entirely. That said, now, the main difference between the One Piece adaptation and, let's say, Bebop is that when Watanabe spoke about being an advisor for Bebop, he wasn't necessarily involved with creative decisions and is on record as saying that he felt like the only thing Bebop about the series was that he was attached. Without that, it wouldn't be Bebop, and I would agree. But with One Piece, Oda has also been on record, in a very different sense, saying that he has been involved heavily and seems to have some semblance of final approval on nearly everything. He has said that the series will not launch until he is satisfied, which I mean is pretty good. But even with that reassurance, there is that one nagging thing that bothers me before going into this trailer, and that is that Netflix has announced that this adaptation will only be 8 episodes. 8. Now, assuming that they're an hour long, that would be like 16 anime-length episodes as far as time goes. But like, how much content does One Piece have again? Oh, right. A lot more than that. Now, of course, to clarify, right, I am not expecting Netflix to commit to like a 100-episode adaptation of One Piece or anything. That is insane. That is ridiculous. That would never happen. But like, what exactly are they planning on covering? What are they going to skip? Are they just sticking to like the initial arc? Are they going to jump around? Is this series going to feel like it's continuous? Or are they going to be cutting a whole bunch of things just so that they can get to the next narrative plot beat? We don't know, but perhaps, I thought, the trailer might give answers to some of those questions and waylay some of those fears. So I watched it. And I am conflicted. On the one hand, I do love the energy of the cast in this trailer, and I think that nailing that is such a huge hurdle for this project specifically. That said, I don't know how much of a fan I am of the gritty realism visuals that the trailer is going for here. Like, One Piece has always been very bright, very colorful. It's always been quite expressive in that way. And this trailer has like that 2000s era video game brown filter on a lot of it. On top of that, several of these scenes just feel empty to me. I feel like I've been a little bit more sensitive to this in recent years, but I feel like since the release of the initial season of The Mandalorian, so many shows are attempting to do this whole film on a small set where everything around the actors is CGI thing. Like, relying on your CGI for set design instead of making it practical is the general gist. Now, that said, not everything in this show is CGI. We have seen quite a few behind-the-scenes things about the Going Merry and how that ship is actually practical. But then in contrast, I would almost wonder if like all of their set design budget went to that and everything not done on the sea is going to be done digitally instead. We don't know. And I mean, we also got to see the Gum Gum pistol in all its CGI glory, and I'm not sold on that either. But also, you know, to stay positive here, one thing to keep in mind about trailer CGI is that things can change between the trailer and the final launch of the show. But after this trailer, am I optimistic? I mean, not really. The trailer is not bad. It looks like there is definite potential in this adaptation, and the knowledge that Oda is there every step of the way is a great reassurance. But I have been burned so many times that I am honestly in the position of, if it's great, then bonus. But until I actually see the final product, I am going to follow my experience with the history of Netflix adaptations and remain unimpressed, unhyped, as it were, until I watch the series and am proven otherwise. Game studio Atlus has released a trailer for their upcoming remake of Persona 3, Persona 3 Reload. This time with an English dub, or rather a single English voiced line, and it's actually a quite perplexing choice. So Persona 3 was released way back in the day on PlayStation 2, and it had a re-release with an extra arc, The Answer. It had a port to portable with a much more sassy, gender-bent protagonist option, and now following in the design footsteps of the more recent Persona 5, Atlus is remaking the original game, just not with the Answer arc or any of the cool bonuses that the portable game had. Shame. But in English, it was announced that Atlus did not plan on keeping its original voice cast, despite many of the voice actors having kept up with their characters in a variety of spin-offs and other Persona-related media over the years. This remake would contain an entirely new English cast. The reasoning behind that is, well, I mean, you can't prove anything. I can't prove anything, but I'm leaning towards a simple explanation of you can't recast one character without recasting all of them, and there are quite a few reasons why some needed to be recast regardless, but we're not going to get into that today. The perplexing thing about this trailer, however, is that it only contains one voice, a voice that sounds suspiciously like known voice actor Yuri Lowenthal, and I may be wrong on that, but it certainly sounds like him, and he previously voiced the original main character of Persona 3, both in incidental voiceover in the game and then also a variety of adaptations. But we already know that Yuri is not playing our protagonist in this remake. He confirmed it himself alongside new protagonist voice Alex Lee, which leads me to believe that while they may be recasting the entire game, it is the entire game, and they may not be averse to bringing back some of the OG Persona 3 cast in other roles. I mean, many of them are still quite active in the voiceover scene, and if they can do the jobs and do them well, it makes little sense not to bring them back for other positions if that is something that makes sense. Now, the other maybe non-news here is that for a very brief period of time after the trailer's launch, the description for the trailer listed all the platforms that the game would be launched on, and it briefly included the Nintendo Switch. Now, it has since been edited to remove that from the description, which means it was more likely just a copy-pasted mistake at fault of whoever put up the video and not a subtle announcement that the game will actually be on the Switch when they have made no announcement to that effect previously. And you know, I just kind of doubt that they would use an English trailer to announce that of all things, but you know, it was still there and some people were like, wait, Switch? Really? As for the game itself, I am looking forward to seeing how it turns out. I am heavily disappointed in the lack of a female main character like in the portable game, because that was the version of Persona 3 that I played the most. And I'm continually disappointed in the lack of a general definitive version of Persona 3, as every release prior to this has all had different elements under a variety of packages, and not everything in one place. I never liked how I had to play multiple games in order to get everything, and this does not seem to be changing that. Though, I have seen an argument that even though they don't plan on adding any of the story from the FES version of Persona 3, that, you know, if they had just done the story right in the original Persona 3 game, then the Answer arc wouldn't have been needed in the first place, and perhaps in this Reload remake, that they will beef up the narrative so much that it wouldn't need an Answer arc in the first place, but that could just be the copium talking. Either way, it is coming out, it looks great, it sounds great, and hopefully it'll play great. But first, before we continue, I wanted to give shoutouts to supporters of this channel over on Patreon, because yes, this video is not sponsored, and the more support we get over there, the less sponsors that Glass Reflection will need at any given time. So an immense thank you, especially to patrons like Omar Showman, Sailor Arashi, Hector Montemayor, Wago221, City Yamako, Rifen Bonaparte, and Ross Emerson. We cannot continue without your support, so however much you are able to help, I am eternally grateful. All right, now it's time for my favorite part of the week, where we go over the anime trending chart for the current anime seasonal rankings. Now, we've seen a couple of shakeups over the last number of weeks, which makes it very interesting that turning to this list immediately, the number one spot for 3 weeks now has remained unchanged, and that is for the entry of Heavenly Delusion. It has been in the top 10 every single week, but it has surprisingly, despite the fact that the last number of weeks there has been no shows off the wagon, so to speak, with recap episodes and the like, despite all of that, it has remained in the number one spot. Now, beyond that, of course, we do have Witch from Mercury coming up into second position. It is doing extremely well. Either that or Hell's Paradise has just done slightly worse, being bumped down into third. Dangers in My Heart, however, has jumped 2 spaces into fourth, beating out Oshinoko, getting that dumped down into fifth. But largely, like last week, a good chunk of this top 10 remains the same. The main differences being is that Demon Slayer's Swordsmith Village arc has re-entered the top 10 into 7th, which has knocked a lot of things down. Not Kubo, surprisingly, as that stays in 8th, but Skip and Loafer is now dropped 2 positions into 9th, while Ray Liana dropped down 1 into 10th. And of course, scrolling down to my least favorite show of the entire season, Cheat Skill, it went up 2 spaces and is now in 22nd position, and my favorite show of this entire season, Otaku Elf, has dropped again, only 1 space this time, but now it is in 28th. I am happy that The Dangers in My Heart has jumped up into 4th position, because that was indeed a thing. And we also, I didn't make a separate section for it in this video, but we also now know that it has been greenlit for a second season that'll hopefully be out near the start of next year. So if you have been enjoying that series, as some people seem to be, then look forward to that second season. Now, we only have a couple of weeks left, about 2, maybe 3, depending on whether or not a series is going to end at 12 episodes or 13. So we are nearing, if we are not technically in the final stretch for this season, and how these shows are going to pan out and how popular they're going to be at the end. They need to stick the landing, and we're going to see how it goes from there. I have high hopes for Heavenly Delusion on actually staying in that first position as we continue, as well as Witch from Mercury actually being, you know, continually awesome, and hopefully breaking the little trend stigma I've seen of second seasons for Gundam franchises on not being all that great. And, you know, it could still crap the bed between now and its final episode. We'll have to see. With luck, none of that will happen. With luck, all of these shows will continue to be great. And that is it for our show today. So subscribe if you haven't. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. And until next time, which won't be later this week, as I have other commitments that I need to handle. But until next week, watch more anime and stay frosty.